Did Reverend James Cleveland really die from AIDS?
Whoa.
But is it really appropriate for a 44-year-old man to share a bedroom with a child who is not related to him at all?
That's a beautiful thing.
That's not a worrying thing?
Why should it be worrying? Who's the criminal? Who's Jack the Ripper in the room?
But I was gay all my life. I believe I was one of the first gay people to come out.
Nobody suspected these soul singers were actually gay. They lived double lives they could never publicly acknowledge as their own. The gospel legends who preached salvation while hiding their desires.
But I was gay all my life. I believe I was one of the first gay people to come out.
The sex symbols who built careers on romance while living as eternal bachelors. The flamboyant pioneers who turned sexual mystery into artistic power.
Sexuality is not that you're talking about. Sexuality is very spiritual in nature, and that's a God-given gift too.
Some legends maintained their secrets until death. Others found unexpected courage in later years. So, let's get into it. Luther Vandross was the undisputed king of romantic ballads, but according to his friend Patti LaBelle, he lived with a secret that tormented him for decades. In a 2017 appearance on Watch What Happens Live, LaBelle revealed what many had long suspected.
He did not want his mother to be, although she might have known, but he wasn't going to come out and say this to the world. And he had a lot of lady fans, and he told me that he just didn't want to upset the world.
For over 20 years of stardom, Luther never married and had no children. His longest romantic relationship was reportedly with a man during the late 1980s and early 1990s while living in Los Angeles, according to friend Bruce Valanche. Yet night after night, he serenaded audiences with Here and Now and Never Too Much, singing about a love he could never publicly claim. The speculation about his sexuality followed him everywhere. His significant weight loss in the mid-1980s, during the height of the AIDS epidemic, sparked false rumors that he too suffered from the disease. Luther denied these reports but never spoke publicly about his sexuality.
The square thing. I'm exercising and dieting and, improving my health in the process.
And you feel better?
That's it. Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of people don't want to accept your weight loss. I mean, they had this crazy rumor in
that
July.
I died.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did.
In a rare 2000 Vibe interview, Luther admitted he had never been in love. I'm still waiting. The time that I've spent being in love has never been reciprocated. Those are just the circumstances. His first experience of unrequited love occurred when he was just 16. The response was, "Thank you, but I'm not interested." It was very painful, unrequited, and alienating. Very alienating. Luther died in 2005 after suffering a massive stroke. His sexuality never confirmed during his lifetime. The king of romantic ballads had spent his entire career singing about a love he could never publicly pursue, a sacrifice that his closest friends say weighed heavily on his heart until the very end. March 18th, 1982. Teddy Pendergrass, the ultimate sex symbol of soul music, was driving his Rolls-Royce through Philadelphia at 1:30 a.m. when his life changed forever.
Singer Teddy Pendergrass is in critical condition right now in a Philadelphia hospital.
In the passenger seat was Tanika Watson, a transgender nightclub performer he had known since the 1970s.
The car started speeding up really fast. And I was wondering, was he driving fast? But he wasn't. It was out of control. And I noticed he was struggling with the wheel.
2 days after the accident, news broke of Watson's transgender identity and her past arrests for prostitution. Watson tried to reach Teddy after the accident but was blocked by someone at the hospital. Her modeling career was destroyed before it began, and she was forced back into escort work. Teddy died in 2010, having never publicly addressed the rumors or explained what happened that night. The ultimate sex symbol took his truth to the grave, leaving behind only questions about the accident that defined the rest of his life. While Teddy's story was defined by one tragic moment of speculation, another artist built his entire career around deliberate sexual mystery. turning ambiguity into his greatest artistic weapon. From his 1978 debut, Prince Rogers Nelson deliberately challenged every convention. When controversy hit the airwaves, he sang directly to his critics. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? It wasn't just a lyric. It was a declaration of war against every category society tried to impose on him. Prince's flamboyant appearance sparked immediate speculation. He wore high heels, lace blouses, and bikini briefs on stage, complete with dramatic makeup that challenged traditional masculinity. His relationships with women were public. Marriages to Maite Garcia and Manuela Testolini. High-profile romances with Madonna and Sheila E. But those who worked with him saw something different. His stage performances became increasingly provocative, with him writhing on beds and simulating S-acts that made every audience member question what they were really seeing. Prince surrounded himself with androgynous musicians and created songs that explored themes of sexual identity and gender confusion.
Sexuality is not bad. I'm talking about sexuality is very spiritual in nature, and that's a God-given gift too.
The mystery was intentional. Prince understood that sexual ambiguity enhanced his mystique and broadened his appeal. He could be everything to everyone. A sex symbol for women, a style icon for the LGBTQ+ community, and a musical genius for purists. By refusing to be categorized, he transcended all categories. He existed in the space between definitions, using sexual ambiguity as both artistic statement and marketing strategy. At his final concerts, Prince would look out at audiences filled with people of every sexual orientation, all united by his music. The Purple One took his secrets to Paisley Park, leaving behind only the music and the mystery, exactly as he planned it. His legacy is one of complete sexual liberation, proving that the most powerful artists are those who refuse to be contained by society's narrow definitions. But while Prince turned sexual ambiguity into artistic power, another superstar found himself trapped by the very same mystery, unable to escape the questions that followed him from childhood fame into tragic isolation. Michael Jackson's sexuality became one of the most scrutinized aspects of his extraordinary life. From his days with the Jackson 5 through his solo career, speculation followed him everywhere, creating a narrative of someone disconnected from typical adult relationships and sexual expression. The speculation began early in his career. Unlike his brothers, Michael showed little interest in dating or romantic relationships during his teenage years. While Jackie, Jermaine, and Marlon were known for their relationships with women, Michael seemed more interested in his craft than romance, a pattern that continued into adulthood. His physical transformation only intensified the rumors. The multiple plastic surgeries, skin bleaching, and increasingly androgynous appearance suggested someone uncomfortable with traditional masculine identity. Critics and fans wondered if this physical evolution reflected deeper struggles with sexual identity. Michael's marriages to Lisa Marie Presley and Debbie Rowe were widely viewed as public relations moves rather than genuine romantic connections. Both relationships seemed more focused on image management than emotional intimacy. The lack of public displays of affection and the clinical nature of his second marriage, which produced 2 children through artificial insemination, only fueled more speculation. His friendship with young boys became the most controversial aspect of his personal life, leading to accusations and legal battles.
But is it really appropriate for a 44-year-old man to share a bedroom with a child who is not related to him at all?
That's a beautiful thing.
That's not a worrying thing?
Why should it be worrying? Who's the criminal? Who's Jack the Ripper in the room?
While never proven, these allegations created additional confusion about his sexuality and relationships, with some seeing predatory behavior and others seeing arrested emotional development. The truth about Michael's sexuality may never be known. He was intensely private about personal matters and deeply traumatized by childhood fame. Whether the speculation reflected reality or simply misunderstanding of a deeply damaged individual remains unclear. Michael died in 2009, taking with him the answers to questions that had tormented him for decades. The king of pop's personal truth remained locked away, another casualty of a childhood stolen and a life lived under impossible scrutiny that made authentic relationships nearly impossible to form or maintain. From one tormented superstar to another, while Michael retreated from speculation, our next artist embraced the spotlight with flamboyant joy, only to discover that visibility came with its own deadly price. Jermaine Stewart burst onto the MTV scene in the mid-1980s with "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off," a song that ironically became a dance floor anthem while promoting restraint. His energetic performances, flamboyant style, and infectious personality made him a favorite on MTV and in dance clubs worldwide. Stewart's image was deliberately provocative for the era. He wore makeup, colorful outfits, and moved with a fluidity that challenged traditional masculine performance styles. His music videos featured elaborate choreography and theatrical elements that some interpreted as coded expressions of gay identity, though he never confirmed this interpretation. The rumors intensified because Stewart never publicly dated women or discussed romantic relationships. In interviews, he deflected personal questions with humor and charm, focusing instead on his music and career ambitions. This privacy, while understandable for any performer, only fueled more speculation among fans and media. Behind the scenes, record executives worried about his image. The song's message about not being intimate, combined with his flamboyant presentation, created confusion about what he was really promoting and to whom his message was directed. Stewart's career began to fade as the 1980s ended, with younger artists taking over the charts. Whether the persistent rumors about his sexuality affected his commercial prospects remains unclear, but opportunities became increasingly scarce as the decade progressed. His sudden death in 1997 from liver cancer, initially reported as AIDS-related complications, seemed to confirm what many had suspected. The circumstances of his illness and death led to widespread assumption that he had been secretly gay, struggling with HIV/AIDS during an era when both carried enormous stigma. Friends and collaborators offered conflicting accounts of his personal life. Some insisted he was heterosexual, while others suggested he had been closeted, afraid that coming out would destroy his career in an industry still hostile to openly gay performers. The tragedy of Jermaine Stewart's story isn't just his early death, but the impossibility of living authentically during his era. Whether gay or straight, he existed in a time when male performers had to carefully navigate expectations of masculinity and sexuality, often at the cost of personal happiness. This same impossible pressure would manifest differently in our next artist, a man whose emotional depth suggested he carried secrets that might have been too heavy for any soul to bear alone. Donny Hathaway possessed one of the most emotionally devastating voices in soul music history. His classics like A Song for You and This Christmas revealed a depth of feeling that seemed to come from profound personal experience.
But we're alone now, and I'm singing this song.
But behind the beautiful music lay a tortured individual struggling with mental illness and, some speculated, suppressed aspects of his identity. Hathaway's music carried an emotional weight that suggested someone intimately familiar with pain and isolation. His interpretations of love songs were so convincing, yet so melancholy, that listeners sensed deeper struggles beneath the surface. When he sang about love, there was always an undertone of longing and sadness that transcended typical romantic themes. Friends noted his intense relationships with male friends and collaborators, particularly his partnership with Roberta Flack. Some interpreted their musical chemistry as evidence of Hathaway's comfort with artistic intimacy that might have extended beyond music. His battles with mental illness complicated any discussion of his personal life. Hathaway suffered from severe depression and was eventually diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. These conditions made it difficult to separate potential struggles with sexual identity from broader psychological issues that plagued his adult life. His marriage to Eulalia was troubled, strained by his mental illness and secrets he seemed unable to share with anyone. Friends observed him crying inexplicably after recording sessions, displaying an emotional pain that went beyond his diagnosed conditions. Hathaway's tragic death in 1979, when he fell from a Chicago hotel window, ended a brilliant career and left many questions unanswered. But where Donny's pain was raw and devastating, another artist channeled his sensitivity into something more subtle, a gentle mystery that would follow him throughout his family's rise to fame. DeBarge possessed one of the most distinctive falsetto voices of the 1980s, leading the DeBarge family group to massive success with hits like All This Love and Time Will Reveal. His soft-spoken demeanor, refined appearance, and ethereal singing voice created an image that sparked years of quiet speculation he never directly addressed. The rumors began during DeBarge's peak popularity in the early to mid-1980s. L's gentle manner and sophisticated style contrasted sharply with the aggressive masculinity typical of male R&B performers. His interviews revealed a thoughtful, artistic personality, more interested in music than projecting traditional masculine energy.
There's any limit to what I can do because I'm willing to go that extra mile. Our group, we have a motto, and we always said, we're never going to arrive. We're always going to be on our way.
His falsetto voice became central to the speculation. While many male singers used falsetto as a technique, L's natural speaking voice was soft, and his singing voice seemed to exist primarily in that higher register. Some fans and critics interpreted this as evidence of feminine energy or possible gender fluidity, though this remained pure speculation. The DeBarge family's public struggles with drug addiction and legal troubles added complexity to discussions of L's personal life. His own battles with substance abuse led to arrests and periods out of the spotlight, creating an image of someone struggling with multiple personal demons. Despite fathering several children and being linked to women publicly, the whispers never completely disappeared. L never directly addressed these rumors, choosing instead to focus on music and family matters in interviews. His strategy of silence neither confirmed nor denied the speculation, leaving fans to draw their own conclusions based on limited public information and their own interpretations of his persona. From one artist who navigated secular speculation to another who faced an even more impossible challenge, living with secrets in the deeply religious world of gospel music, where authenticity could mean losing everything. Billy Preston earned the nickname the Fifth Beatle for his keyboard contributions to the legendary band's later recordings, but his own remarkable career as a soul and gospel artist was shadowed by persistent questions about his personal life that he never publicly addressed.
My sweet Lord.
Preston's lifelong bachelorhood was unusual for a successful entertainer of his era. While he was occasionally linked to various women throughout his career, none of these relationships resulted in marriage or long-term partnerships that became public knowledge. His privacy about romantic matters was so complete that it became noteworthy in itself. The speculation intensified due to his deep religious background and involvement in gospel music. Preston began his career as a child prodigy in church, and his faith remained central to his identity throughout his life. Some observers wondered if internal conflicts between religious beliefs and sexual identity might explain his private nature and apparent avoidance of committed relationships. Friends and colleagues offered conflicting perspectives on Preston's personal life throughout his career. Some insisted he was heterosexual but simply preferred privacy, while others hinted at possible struggles with closeted identity. The music industry's whisper network kept these rumors alive for decades without any definitive confirmation or denial. But if Billy Preston struggled in the shadows of gospel music, our next legend lived at its very center, where the contradictions between spiritual leadership and personal truth created an impossible situation that the entire gospel community chose to ignore. James Cleveland revolutionized gospel music with his innovative arrangements and powerful voice, earning the title King of Gospel Music. His influence extended far beyond performance into composition, production, and mentorship of countless gospel artists. But his towering professional achievements existed alongside persistent rumors about his personal life that the gospel community largely avoided discussing. The speculation about Cleveland's sexuality stemmed from his lifelong bachelor status and the particular intensity of his relationships with younger male gospel singers. As a mentor and producer, Cleveland was known for taking special interest in developing male talent, relationships that some interpreted as potentially romantic rather than purely professional. His position within the deeply religious gospel community made any discussion of his personal life particularly sensitive.
The gospel from all over the world together, asked them what they thought about the idea.
Cleveland was not just a performer, but a spiritual leader, someone who guided other artists and influenced the direction of sacred music. Questions about his sexuality created tension throughout the gospel community. The whispers followed him for years, hushed conversations in church vestibules about the Reverend's special relationships with his protégés. Church mothers would exchange knowing glances when certain young singers spent extended time in Cleveland's private office after services and recording sessions. Cleveland had built his empire on transforming gospel music, bringing sophisticated arrangements and emotional depth to sacred songs. But his personal life remained a carefully guarded mystery that threatened to undermine everything he'd accomplished in a community that explicitly condemned homosexuality. His death in 1991 intensified the rumors when reports suggested he had died from AIDS-related complications, though this was never officially confirmed.
Let me ask you this, did Reverend James Cleveland really die from AIDS?
Whoa! The gospel music community's response to these rumors was complex and largely silent. Many church leaders and gospel artists knew Cleveland personally and respected his contributions to sacred music. Discussing his potential homosexuality would have required confronting the tension between his spiritual leadership and behaviors that many considered sinful. While Cleveland took his truth to the grave, surrounded by religious obligations and community expectations, another crooner would accidentally reveal his secret and discover that honesty in the 1980s came with a terrifying price. Johnny Mathis achieved something remarkable in popular music, a career spanning over 6 decades while carefully navigating his identity as a gay man. In 1982, during what he thought was an off-the-record conversation with Us Weekly, Mathis casually mentioned that homosexuality is a way of life that I've grown accustomed to. The statement sent shockwaves through his fan base and the music industry.
That was a revelation for me. I come from San Francisco. It's not unusual to be gay in San Francisco.
Within days, the backlash was severe. Mathis received death threats from outraged fans who felt betrayed by their romantic idol. After the publication of the article, Mathis said the comment was supposed to have been off the record, and he did not speak publicly about his sexual orientation for many years. The reason he kept quiet was that he had received death threats as a result of that offhand comment. His father's reaction was surprisingly supportive. Mathis recalled,
"My dad had a wonderful, wonderful way about accepting things as they are, as opposed to the way we think. Oh.
For years after 1982, Mathis perfected the art of deflection, skillfully avoiding personal questions in interviews while maintaining his image as the eternal bachelor. He focused conversations on his music, his athletic background, and his professional achievements, never allowing discussions to venture into romantic territory. The pressure of maintaining this secret for so long was enormous. While Mathis eventually found peace with his truth after surviving the backlash, another Motown legend's story remained clouded by chaos. A brilliant talent whose personal demons made it impossible to separate truth from speculation. David Ruffin possessed one of the most distinctive voices in Motown history, leading the Temptations on classics like My Girl. But his personal life was marked by chaos, addiction, and behavior that sparked persistent rumors about his sexuality despite his public relationships with women. The speculation about Ruffin's sexuality emerged from his flamboyant stage presence and increasingly erratic personal behavior. His performances were theatrical and emotionally intense, with dramatic gestures and movements that some interpreted as potentially feminine or sexually ambiguous. Though these interpretations were often rooted in stereotypes about male performers who displayed emotional vulnerability. His well-documented relationship with Tammy Terrell, both professional and romantic, seemed to contradict rumors about his sexuality. Their duets were filled with genuine chemistry, and colleagues insisted their romantic connection was real. However, their relationship was also troubled, marked by reports of domestic violence that painted Ruffin as dangerous and unpredictable. Ruffin's struggles with drug addiction complicated any discussion of his personal life. Some observers wondered if his substance abuse might have been connected to internal struggles with identity or sexuality, though this remained pure speculation. The rumors persisted partly because of the general gossip that surrounded all Motown stars. The label's artists lived under intense scrutiny, and any deviation from expected behavior became fodder for speculation. Ruffin's volatile personality and troubled relationships made him a particular target for such gossip. His relationship with Dennis Edwards, who replaced him in the Temptations, was particularly intense and complicated. Their friendship had undertones that made everyone around them uncomfortable, though nothing was ever confirmed and both men maintained public relationships with women. Most who knew Ruffin personally dismissed the sexuality rumors as unfounded speculation based on stereotypes about male performers who showed emotional range. His legacy remains complicated by his personal troubles, but his contributions to soul music are undeniable. On June 1, 1991, David Ruffin died in a Philadelphia crack house, his body found in the back of a limousine after a drug dealer dumped him at a hospital. He was 50 years old, his voice silenced forever, his secrets buried with him on that Philadelphia street, another casualty of an era when authenticity was a luxury few could afford. Where David Ruffin's truth remained buried in tragedy and speculation, our final artist lived the most public battle with sexuality in music history, a revolutionary who spent decades fighting between his identity and his faith, ultimately paving the way for every artist who came after. Little Richard Penniman stands as perhaps the most courageous and complex figure in the history of sexuality and popular music. From his earliest performances, he challenged every convention about male sexuality, wearing makeup, sequined outfits, and performing with a sexual energy that defied categorization. But his journey with sexuality and faith created a complicated legacy, spanning decades of contradictory public statements. By his own admission, Richard had been with both men and women during his teenage years and was thrown out of his childhood home after his father discovered him wearing his mother's makeup and clothing. During the early 1950s, openly gay musician Billy Wright guided Richard on his path to rock and roll greatness. convincing him that being a glamorous, flamboyant performer was acceptable regardless of his sexuality. The original lyrics of Tutti Frutti included references to a gay man. Tutti Frutti, good booty. If it don't fit, don't force it. You can grease it, make it easy. Though the song was later sanitized for radio, Richard's early material was openly coded with gay references. In 1957, at the height of his career, Richard suddenly abandoned rock and roll to attend Oakwood College, a theological school in Alabama, where he studied gospel music. He believed he found peace with God and that he should live as God intended. But he also faced devils while there, being caught asking a deacon's son to expose himself and resenting his unnatural affections. Richard's statements about sexuality varied wildly throughout his life.
God gave me the victory. I'm not gay now, but I was gay all my life. I believe I was one of the first gay people to come out.
Throughout the 1970s, Little Richard struggled with drug use, traveled back and forth between Christian music and secular music, and at times denounced homosexuality, once saying, "If God can save an old homosexual like me, he can save anybody." His voyeuristic escapades eventually led to him being jailed for sexual misconduct after being found with a couple in a car at a Macon gas station. "My whole gay activities were really into masturbation," he said. "I'd always be mad after I finished. Be mad at myself, don't want to talk about it." When Little Richard died in 2020, the world mourned the loss of rock and roll's true architect. His greatest legacy wasn't just musical. It was the courage to live authentically in an era when doing so could get you killed. He'd spent his entire life fighting a war between his truth and his faith, between his sexuality and his spirituality. The screaming, makeup-wearing, gender-bending preacher's son had torn open a door that could never be closed again, showing the world that authentic self-expression was more powerful than any social convention. His revolution began with a song called Tutti Frutti, but it ended with a generation of artists who felt free to love whoever they wanted to love. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.